Just as sunflowers chase the sun, inductees into the South Dakota Hall of Fame chase their dreams day after day, year after year. The 700-plus inductees in the Hall of Fame come from all backgrounds and corners of our state. What their stories have in common is their unwavering courage and belief in their dreams. These dream chasers are an inspiration for us all to strive for excellence and believe in our own potential to chase dreams well into the future.
Earl Brockelsby was a visionary of the South Dakota tourism industry as early as 1935. Earl recognized the need and importance to bring and maintain visitors to the state. Through his love and fascination with reptiles, Brockelsby created the Black Hills Reptile Gardens, an enterprise that would eventually become the world's largest collection of reptiles and one of the main attractions in South Dakota. To ensure Brockelsby's vision of tourism to the western part of South Dakota, he served as a director of the Black Hills Badlands and Lakes Association for 28 years, during which time he served as president.
Hello, I'm Miles Beacom with South Dakota Hall of Fame, and today I'm with Johnny Brockelsby, and his father, Earl, was inducted in 2000. And Johnny, could you tell us a little bit about your father and just the upbringing and what a legend in South Dakota?
Yeah, well, you know, Dad, Miles, was truly one of the pioneers for the tourism industry in South Dakota. Basically, he and Ted Husted with the Wall Drug Store and that were two of the real pioneers for the visitor industry. And, you know, it was a challenge. My dad, he was only 21 when he started Reptile Gardens, and it was in 1937. And that was not the most prosperous time in the United States. That was the Great Depression and all of that stuff. So it wasn't the greatest time to start a business. But
so that was 1937.
Yep.
Did he ever share with you why he started Reptile Gardens?
Well, yes, he did. Dad was he was an amazing character, and a character he was. Well, when he was a little boy, he grew up in Kadoka, South Dakota, and he actually did have a love of reptiles and that, and he would go out and catch garter snakes and bull snakes and things like that and keep them for, a couple of weeks at a time before he'd turn them loose again and as pets. And anyway, when he got to be older, he would go out and catch rattlesnakes, and he would play with rattlesnakes, and he would tame them down to where they were like pets to him. I mean, it was almost like he was the horse whisperer, only to rattlesnakes. So he's a kid of 19, and there was a little tourist attraction, doesn't exist now, it's called Hidden City, just outside of Rapid City, and Dad was hired that summer to do tours. So he would give tours through Hidden City, and he would finish the tour, and he'd have this group of 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people, however many, and he always wore a big old cowboy hat like this, and at the end of the tour, he'd take that cowboy hat off, wipe the sweat from his brow, and lo and behold, he had one of his pet rattlesnakes on top of his head. Well, as you can well imagine, Miles, at that point in time, people could care less about Hidden City. They wanted to know about reptiles, rattlesnakes, or a nutcase that would have a live one on top of his head. And that's what gave Dad the idea that whether people hated them or not, there was a fascination with them, and that gave him the seed of an idea for starting Reptile Gardens.
That's just amazing. So it started in 37, which you're right, it's a very difficult time to start something, a new business. So how did it grow from there?
Well, when he did start in 37, I mean, he had to go to 4 different bankers before he finally was able to attain a $400 loan. And in those early days, it was just a real challenge for him. I mean, you can imagine, it's the Great Depression, people don't have any money, and to try to get somebody to part, it was just 10 cents to go in and watch him jump in a pit and play with snakes. But it was a hard sell to get that 10 cents back in those days and that. So very, very modest beginnings, very, very small. But Dad was a clever businessman. He was really quite smart. And a couple of his clever ideas to start with, the original Reptile Gardens was on top of the steepest hill going out of Rapid City. It was just Highway 16, it was a little 2-lane road, and he put it on top of that hill because cars weren't very dependable back in those days. They had a tendency to overheat, and so when they would climb this hill, about half of the cars would be overheated when they get to the top, so he put a big old parking lot in, and people would pull in and let the car cool off the engine, and Dad would jump out of his little shack and try to get him to part with 10 cents to watch him jump in, and that's how he really started it. And then as it grew a little bit, and that he also realized that people, they wanted to stop at places where they thought there was action happening and other people were. So he came up with the concept of what we called dummy cars, and Dad bought 8 automobiles, and he parked them in front of Reptile Gardens. And so the first car coming over the hill in the morning would see about 8 cars there, and it looked like there was some activity in that, and they were more likely to stop. So those were some of the things he did in order to start the growth of the gardens. And so it went through a lot of changes in that. Then, of course, World War II came along, and we were completely shut down. And by the time Dad got back out of his time in the service and that, the whole place it hadn't been open and had gone to heck, so he had to basically start all over again. And then in the early 50s, people started to get more prosperous, and cars and travel and vacations and that became more frequent, and that's really when Reptile Gardens started to prosper.
Yeah, well, what an incredible legacy there. Your father is also very involved in the community doing things as well. Can you share some of those things?
Yeah, Dad, he truly believed in that you needed to be a good citizen in your community, and he was always very grateful for the fact that people embraced Reptile Gardens and they'd bring their guests and family out to visit and that. So he always felt that he owed that back. So yeah, he just did a lot of things in the community like that.